Okay folks, greetings from the workshop on a very hot and humid day indeed. What is that pile of ugliness, you might be asking yourself? Well, that's kind of what we asked ourselves too. That, ladies and gents, is the belly pan, essentially the oil reservoir off a Z650. In fact, that Z650. And this is a masterclass in what not to do. It's another one in our continuing series. So first things first, you're looking at the bottom case. It would normally be laying over that way. And in the bottom case, you have a chain that runs around here, a primary chain that drives and times the crank with a number of other gears, including the oil pickup and some other stuff we won't go too deeply into. Now, one of the important things is to make sure that that primary chain is within tolerance, preferably new or very lightly used. And if it gets worn, it stretches, so it'll run around here and you start hearing this sort of very rattly noise, which isn't a good sound. So what the genius that had this engine before did is, instead of changing the primary chain, he got a piece of, I don't know, 5mm aluminium and 4 nylon squares, then riveted them and placed them under the chain here, rather than just changing the primary chain and doing a service. There's nothing wrong with the case, by the way, but that is a horror show. And as a result of this, the pickup, which is largely cleaned now, where is it? There we go. So on the back here is just covered in metal shavings and crud. The gears, thankfully, were okay. This is the other half of that engine, by the way. That's the primary chain right there, and that's the cam chain, and obviously very important parts of the engine. So just the general level of filth, I don't know if you can see that in there, you probably can, just crap everywhere. And as is the case with so many of these engines, what could have been a very simple tear down, in other words just sort of refitting pistons, you get little warning signs that things haven't been done properly, and we're going to refit pistons, and what do we find out? Well, this is the number 4 piston. You see that side is square and that side is round. Well, the number 3 piston, that's round and round. The number 2 piston, round and round. And the number 1 piston, hard to see, but also round and round. So what's happened is, at some point there's been some damage. They've pulled the engine apart, put this damaged piston in there and tried to jam the whole thing back together with the please do not try this at home, primary chain tensioner, and it's just caused an absolute ton of hard work. So in fact, what we had to end up doing was removing the bolts for the conrods to remove them from the crank itself, rather than just disassembling it like you normally would by tapping those pins out. Those are called gudgeon pins for those that don't know. So rather than just tapping those out, tap, 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 after you remove the circlip, the whole piston would come off, you're left with the rod, you lift the barrels off, lift the head off, easy. Nope, couldn't do that. Had to completely disassemble the bolts. The end of the conrod caps under here held in place by 2 12mm nuts, and absolute nightmare trying to get in here because you've got primary chain tension pulling against everything, holding, wanting to hold the crank in place. So again, what not to do. This is a masterclass in what not to do. Luckily, after inspecting everything, and we'll have a further assessment and update after we've really pulled it apart and cleaned it, but luckily there doesn't appear to be any damage. So please do not do this when you're building an engine. Completely encourage everybody, have a crack. If you've got some hand tools, that's all that's required here, and buy the book, for God's sake. Kawasaki makes the book. You can get these on eBay. These are the original factory service manuals. This happens to be for the Z1000 that's on the bench right there. I'll have an update on that in just a sec. You can buy these, easy, step by step in there. Basic hand tools required. No power tools, no nothing. You don't have to be creative or a genius, because I'm neither. You just have to follow instructions. right there, step by step. Lovely. Thank you, Kawasaki. Great stuff. Thank you for publishing those books. And whoever had this engine previously, I'm not going to tell you the serial number, but whoever you are, if you see this video, for God's sake, just stop it. Bring it to us. We'll build it for you for a fixed cost, plus whatever the engineering work is required to machine the headers, bring it all back into spec. You're probably not looking at more than 33 or 3,500 bucks to get the whole thing done, and it's a brand new engine, and off we go for another 100,000 Ks. But just bring it to us, we'll get it done. We're in the Central Coast, we're licensed, for goodness sake. Just bring it here, we'll get it done for you. And then we can just deliver a lovely shiny engine, and you can have a crack at putting it in the frame in there. All right, so that's it, whinge over. So don't do that. In our continuing series of what not to do, this is a biggie. Do not do any of this stuff to your engine. Right, another video to come, and I will see you in that one. Cheers.